Hello and welcome back to the channel How We Move the Decimal. In today's video, I am sorting through a box of buttons that I have had for over a year. Yeah, honestly, we lost this box in downstairs in our great room area where we put all of our desk piles. We have been, when I say we, my husband and I have been looking for this box of buttons for probably 6 weeks since the first of the year when I was like, oh, we're almost down to the bottom of our death piles. Yay, go team. We're awesome. Then I was like, hold up. I know my mom got me a tub full of vintage buttons. This whole clear plastic tub, she paid $11 for it at a thrift store. They didn't want to sort it out. These buttons were kind of sorted out, and most of them were on their original backing and labels, which was nice. The ones that were not on their original backing or their labels had been ripped off, I ended up just lotting together. I have some bone, some pearl, amber, glass. Most of these buttons are from like the 40s and 50s. There are some way earlier than that, but they are not on their original backings. They were taken off of vintage garments and just sewn to cardboard. So I don't have the ability to accurately date those. My mom did go through them and look at some of them, so that'll be helpful. I did test a couple of them to see if they were Bakelite, and I do have some Bakelite buttons. I used the polish test, and it did turn like rusty, dried blood orange color, so they were Bakelite. And I've got a handful of Bakelite buttons too. Most of them were red. Some were blue, but most of them were red buttons. I did lot by brand if I needed to, color if I needed to, shirt buttons, non-shirt buttons. There is a market for these. It's not a huge market. You can go on eBay and search up vintage buttons. But for paying $11 for this entire bucket, and I think all in all, when I was done counting, it was over 800 buttons total. So it's a good deal. I would not actively go seek out buttons. This is not my forte, but you sell what you get. So I did go through and sort through all of these. It's actually going to be 3 separate videos of me sorting through them. I probably should have sped this up, but I didn't. Right now I'm off camera, but I'm looking and I'm Googling and I'm looking at eBay sold and what to list them for and if I should lock them up. I'm also using the eBay photo tool and the Google reverse look to make sure if they didn't have labeled what they are, I'm going through and making sure that they are what they are and trying to figure them out. Those are actually Bakelite. The ones that look like the cards have just disintegrated over the years. One of them is Bakelite. The other is bone, and I had to make sure it was bone and not ivory. You cannot sell ivory on eBay. Some bone you cannot sell either, so be very aware of that when listing it. But I did want to make sure that they were bone and not ivory, so I was doing a lot of image searching on that. This took a lot more time than I thought to go through and search all of these up, where things that I'm used to listing, I do a lot of vintage items, but most of them are, when I say vintage, like 70s, and they're slightly easier to look up. Old buttons are a lot harder to look up because of the age. But what I was saying is there is a market for this. Some people like these buttons because they can make vintage replica garments the same reason that they buy vintage fabric. Yes, they're making the garment new, but they're using vintage fabric. They're using replicas of, they're not, it's a new garment, but it's all vintage fabric. It's all vintage buttons. So they want the fabric and the buttons from that era. That's why vintage fabrics will do well. That is also why some bed sheets do a lot better. because they want the vibe, they want the actual fabric from that era. So it is the same feel, and it's not that's a close design. That is a design from there. So that's why some of the people that have bought my vintage fabrics have said that they bought it so they could make the dresses, make the shirts and stuff like that. So if somebody has vintage shirts or they're making historical garments, then these buttons would come in handy. A lot of the buttons were from the 50s and 60s. Some were newer buttons too, and those were just went into a lot because the new buttons, there just isn't a market for them in like singular packages or by brand. So a lot of them went in a lot together, and I'm fine with that. Again, $11 for this entire box, and it took me 3 videos of going through it because there are so many buttons. These are the buttons that I'm pulling out now that are incredibly vintage. A lot of them are Victorian era, but I can't for sure say that because they aren't on their original backing. This is just from research I did, research my mom did, trying to figure out what these were and how expensive and what to list them as. This whole bag that I'm pulling out of is the incredibly old buttons that came off of garments. There are no backings to these. They are just written on there, and they were priced in the 50s when the person was selling them, and she individually priced them, and I'm assuming it's she individually priced them as like 10 cents a button. Lots of mother of pearl, lots and lots of mother of pearl buttons. Shell buttons, some onyx buttons, but those, again, I don't have a way of labeling that. So they are going to sell cheaper than they would if I was like a button expert and can identify this. These are more newer buttons. They are still older, but they are not. They're older, but these are more recent time buttons. So this is more of like 70s and 80s buttons. I'm just going to go in as like, sorry, my video was so jumpy. I had to start over. So what I was saying is these are newer buttons. These are from 1970s on. They are La Petite, and I will put most of those together. So 1970s, 1990s. I know these buttons were stopped after the 1990s because apparently the lady that donated them, her mother had them, and she had died in the 1990s. So that is what one of the cards said. So these are 1990s at least or older. But I do lot all of the brand together. There is a couple Bakelite in these, so I do pull them out. But in general, I'm just going by brand at this point in a large lot. All different types of buttons. One of the videos that I did of this, I have not listed these buttons yet because I am woefully behind in everything in life at the moment. April is really crazy for my family and for my work, but May starts to kind of slow down for everything. Like normally May is really crazy for my kids and everything, but April is this year for some reason. Maybe we're just lucky, but I have not listed anything since spring break, which was back in March, and I'm recording this the day after Easter, so I have probably not listed anything in almost 5 weeks, which is rough. And if you're not listing, you're not selling. That is the biggest advice I could give you. We are trying to currently figure out what we are doing this summer, basically what we're going to go into debt to do, and I'm trying to get back into listing things. Today, I just ended 4 listings and relisted them. So I hit sold similar or sell similar instead of relisting them. And I only did the 4 things that were going to end today anyway. And I started a new promotion in my store just to get traffic in it. And I sold something within 2 hours. I don't know if it was the promotion. I don't know if it was selling similar of those 4 items, so the algorithm kind of thinks that they are new items. I don't know which worked, but within 2 hours I did make a sale. It was a small sale, but it was an item that I've had for a really long time in my store. So I was happy it sold. We've had a couple good sales the past couple weeks without doing any listing, which is nice, but that also goes to show that we really need a high quantity in our store. We had over 700 items. Now we're down to like 680. Before I stopped listing, I think 700. I know for a fact 500 is my sweet number, but I also think 700 if I need to let the store ride for a while. So if I know I'm not going to be listing for a while, I need to stay above 700. I do believe that's the thing that needs to be done. I'm looking at doing inventory here soon. So much like I've talked about in previous videos, I like to do calendar year and fiscal year. 2 times a year inventory to pull things out, make room for new things that are not going to sell, get rid of them, or relist them as lots. So if I have like small pieces of fabric that I've got listed separately, maybe I'll list all of them together as like a crafter's lot and do a, whatever I can fit under priority or whatever I can fit in a flat rate priority and sell them that way. I will say I do not do free shipping. I do not do flat rate shippings. I do everything calculated shipping. So if I do a flat rate priority, it's calculated as a flat rate priority because shipping prices are constantly changing and I would have to go in and bulk edit everything. I do need to go in and bulk edit my business policies. You should do this at least once a year. I like to do it at the fiscal year. Go in, delete business policies that are not being used. Make sure no listing is in an accidental listing, accidental shipping policy, any of that. Make sure all your shipping policies are matching up. And you do that by going into your account and then looking at business policies, and you can look at shipping, handling, returns, all of that. eBay is pushing 30-day returns. So I try to have all of my listing at 30-day returns so they show up in the algorithm and get promoted more. I also, might go in and change a title of something, or I might have to go in and change a custom SKU, which you can do all of that in bulk editing. And I do want to make a goal of doing that twice a year, calendar year and fiscal year. And fiscal year is July 1st, and that is coming up. It is like 70 or 80 days away, which is crazy when you think about it. My kids are already counting down to the end of school, and I think we have 32 days left because our school district is incredibly stupid and we're going after Labor Day, where most of the other districts around us are not. And I'm not sure how many kids are going to actually show up after Labor Day because it's literally a field day. They're doing nothing. They're just playing. So, but we are doing that. We're thinking about that. Thinking about, summer, how crazy it's going to be. My job kind of like levels out during the summer, but May is busy and August is busy for me. So I try not to make a lot of things in those months. So when are we going to do vacations and everything? And I know I shouldn't tell the whole world of the internet when I'm leaving my home, so I'm not going to, but summer does become busy for other reasons than during the school year busy. But April, especially the last 2 weeks of April and the first week of May, we are going 100 different places. I am constantly pulling my in-laws in, I'm pulling my own mom in, and I'm like, okay, we need to catch the baby. So that means we have 3 kids and not enough parents. So we have to pull in others. So thank you for watching my video. Please like and subscribe and have a wonderful day.